these ships are really dangerous in a number of ways. They're not certified or safety inspected by anybody, so they can be dangerous not only to their own crews, the cargo they're carrying, but also to others as well. They can spill oil, run over things. They can be very hazardous to navigation.
Well, shall we get an update on one of those other issues that we've been focusing on and following here on the programme over the last couple of days? US officials say Russia has sent a submarine to escort an oil tanker that's been pursued by US forces across the Atlantic. America says the tanker is part of a so-called shadow fleet transporting sanctioned oil from Venezuela to Russia and Iran. But Moscow has filed a diplomatic request for the US to halt its chase, which has so far been ignored. Here to discuss is military analyst Philip Ingram. Good morning.
Kit.
Does this put America and Russia now on a direct sort of collision course when it comes to what happens next here with this shadow fleet tanker?
I'd say an increasing collision course. And of course, America's actions into Venezuela put it on a bit of a collision course anyway, because the Russians had supplied military air defense capability in the weeks before America's raid to capture President Maduro. I think there's a lot going on outside Ukraine that has got the United States and Russia head to head. Ukraine seems to be slightly different.
And in your view, what's the likely outcome here? Because, it doesn't seem like Donald Trump has the appetite to step back. It seems very unlikely that Russia will step back either. And we know this tanker is now flying the Russian flag. Our business correspondent, Dominic O'Connell, has explained that Russia has accepted that and is defending it. So what happens next?
Yes, last month the tanker changed its name from Bella 1 in the Caribbean when America was going to board it then, and to the Marina, and reflagged from Guyanese to Russian, and then headed out into the Atlantic. So the Americans have got a psychological reason to want to go and get it. I think there's an awful lot of speculation around at the moment with the movement of the Special Forces helicopters and capability into the UK, and the monitoring that's going on, and people are putting two things together that may not necessarily be linked, because certainly this tanker will be monitored from the air, and we've seen US P-8 Poseidon maritime patrol aircraft, as well as, interestingly, Irish C-295 maritime patrol aircraft out flying over the tanker area. And the UK has been helping them, we understand, with fighter jet escort and its own maritime patrol aircraft. So whether the US are going to actually try and capture it or not, it's something that is unfolding more in the public domain with lots of speculation rather than being fact behind it.
And we will have to wait to see what happens in terms of whether the US does go for that. But in the broader sense now, it does seem, and you've just articulated it there, the UK is involved, other forces, other nations are now involved. Does that make it more likely that we will look for some of these other tankers, which we know are trying to hide themselves around the world, and try and intercept them?
Of course we will, and it's not just us looking for them. The Ukrainians are looking for them. The Ukrainians have had success in sinking some of the tankers in the Black Sea near Turkey, in the Mediterranean, and off the African coast. So, if the Ukrainians thought that they could get this, they don't seem to be constrained by geography as well. So something may happen to it. Donald Trump will want to do that, and if he does do it, it shows that he's sending a very, very clear message now to Vladimir Putin. The coming hours or days will tell us exactly what's going to happen.
And of course tell us what President Putin's reaction may well be, including to the news overnight about the coalition of the willing. Philip, always great to have you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
That's Philip Ingram there, military analyst.
It does feel that things are moving in all sorts of areas, and they might all point to the same conclusion.
They're all pointing towards President Putin.
They absolutely are. And also, it occurred to me just talking about Iran, he's running out of allies a bit, because Maduro was an ally. He's now in a New York prison. If Khomeini flees to Moscow, he's no longer any use to him. Assad is no longer any use to him anymore. That does feel that things are shifting a little bit.
A curious story in the Times now. A shadow tanker fleeing a US blockade on oil leaving Venezuela is being monitored by NATO aircraft as speculation grows that American forces may try to board it. NATO allies and the Irish Air Corps appear to have flown over the tanker, which is on course to travel north of the UK. Emma Yeomans has the story for the Times.
So this tanker was pursued by the US Coast Guard late last year, who failed to catch up with it. And at that point, the tanker rebranded itself, reflagged as a Russian vessel, prompting Russia to ask the US to stop chasing it. It's now crossed most of the way across the Atlantic and is set to pass somewhere north of the UK, probably quite close to Iceland and the Faroe Islands, on, we think, its way to a Russian Arctic port in Murmansk.
Emma Yeomans there. Let's get some more detail on this with Dr. Stephen Wills, a navalist at the Centre for Maritime Strategy. Stephen, good evening. Thanks for being with us.
Great being here with you. Thank you very much.
So let's just explain what we think this is. We think it is one of the Shadow Fleet. It has escaped the US blockade around Venezuela and is currently heading, well, possibly towards the UK or to Danish waters.
Yeah, so exactly. This is a growing problem in the world that we've seen in the last number of years with these various unregistered, stateless vessels that are outside any kind of international law by and large. And they've been utilized by Mr. Putin during his Ukraine war and also by the Iranians at different times to evade sanctions and move oil around and make money. As a result of this. And these ships are really dangerous in a number of ways. They're not certified or safety inspected by anybody, so they can be dangerous not only to their own crews, the cargo they're carrying, but also to others as well. They can spill oil, run over things. They can be very hazardous to navigation. So it's in everybody's best interest to hunt these folks down and get them under control, apprehend them. They are considered by international law stateless vessels. Now, we don't know how well registered this vessel is with the Russians. I read a report where the crew had painted a Russian flag on deck in hopes of certifying their Russian status. That remains to be seen. But this is one of those ships, in this case moving Venezuelan oil, that the Maduro regime cooperated with these nations in case of Russia and Iraq, and moving this oil to make money. So it's in everybody's best interest that we clean up these vessels and get them off the international sea lanes because, again, they can be a safety hazard and they're stateless vessels.
Do you think that the suggestion is from CBS is that US forces are planning to seize the tanker? We know that 2 US P-8 surveillance aircraft flying from RAF Mildenhall in Suffolk were monitoring it alongside a British Eurofighter Typhoon departing from RAF Lossiemouth. So there are plenty of eyes in the skies on it. Yes. Will the US take action, do you think?
That's certainly possible. A previous vessel that was taken, the tanker Skipper, was secured in a similar way by U.S. service people rappelling down from helicopters to seize that vessel. So there are certainly airborne ways of doing this with U.S. forces, and U.S. Special Forces in particular are trained to do these kind of things.
Yeah, I mean,
not new.
Yeah, the interesting point is that the 2 US planes overflew Irish airspace. This is what the Irish Times reported. But Ireland forbids military aircraft from using its airspace while on active military operations. Ireland is traditionally a neutral country, of course. So, is there any issue here with where the tanker is and where US forces might plan to seize it?
No, absolutely. International boundaries apply here. This is easier to do with naval vessels because there's more long-term established rules about, how far away from coasts you can do operations. The United States recognizes that 12 nautical mile limit. Other countries want more. That often applies to aviation assets as well. So certainly you could see a Venezuelan vessel, or a stateless vessel in this case, trying to duck inside a neutral nation's waters to avoid action. And that's a long-standing thing we've seen happen.
Yeah, interesting. Look, thank you so much for being with us. Dr. Stephen Wills there, a navalist at the Centre for Maritime Strategy.